Welcome back to the Street Parking Podcast, everybody. I'm here today with one of our amazing members who came to do the vault with us. And Jessica Shaughnessy is here with me today. She did her workout already, but we can't reveal what that is. I will reveal, though, that she did the workout with Julian, and she got fitness bullied by Julian, so she got to experience that. Jessica is in the military, working in logistics, and she is a mom of two. A mom of two, and former college gymnast, which I want to dive into because you have some interesting things to say about that versus where you are now. But yeah, really pumped to have you here.
I'm excited to be here.
I think, so this podcast is released a few days before your vault workout comes out.
Okay.
You've already done yours. Don't give away what it was, but if you could describe it in 3 words or less.
I would just say rough.
Okay, you just need one word. It was rough.
It was rough.
She got to use the barbell because usually at home you work out with dumbbells just because you work out super early in the morning and the barbell's loud.
Yes.
So we loaded her up with the barbell version, and it was just a great experience, a rough experience.
It was a great experience, but yes, in a single word, that workout was just rough.
Yes. Okay, so you're in the military, Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
How long have you been in doing that?
I've been with the Air Force for 13 years now. 9.5 of it was on the enlisted side, and I worked as a controller for 1 Charlie 3s, for anybody who knows that AFSC, but command post.
Okay.
And then in 2019, I commissioned.
What's the difference? Explain what that means, like enlisted versus commissioned.
So more or less, enlisted tend to do the actual job that they're assigned to,
Okay.
and officers tend to, I guess you'd say, more manage.
Okay.
So officers managed me when I was enlisted. They made
Okay.
sure that I was essentially doing what I should be doing and going in the direction that I should be going into. I mean, we do have higher enlisted who do that as well, but you still need your overarching leaders, and that's what the officers are there for. So I decided that I really wanted to be behind. I consider it more of behind the scenes,
Okay.
versus out in the open and on the scenes. Because, like I said, the enlisted are the hands-on.
Okay.
Officers
Yes.
are more hands-off and behind the scenes, do paperwork and assist in any way that they can.
Okay.
We're, in a sense, like the mouth for what they need, because not everyone wants to hear from the enlisted side. They want. I have more power in terms of like getting what they
Speaking
may
for them.
need. Yep, exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is.
Okay.
So.
And you have 2 kids. How old are they?
Avery will be 7 in April, and
Okay.
she's my little girl. And then Lucas is going to be 2.5 at the end of this month.
Oh.
And he's my little boy, and he's truly a 2-year-old right now.
I mean, Banner was the same way. I was actually 15 minutes late coming here today because I had to text Kim. I was like, there are meltdowns happening. Please let Drew, who I interviewed before you, please let Drew know that I will be 15 minutes late, because it was just a 2-year-old meltdown that was happening.
Oh, and there are plenty of those on a regular basis.
Is there, have you found a difference between a 2-year-old, and it might just be your kids, who knows if it's a gender thing, but like a 2-year-old boy versus a 2-year-old girl? Or just raising a boy versus a girl in general? Because I've only had boys.
It's very different. Avery, she didn't really have much of the tantrums and meltdowns that Lucas seems to have. She turned into more of a 3-nager. So when she turned 3,
I've heard a lot about this 3-nager thing that seems more of a girl thing.
Yes, she was more of a
Sassy.
3-nager. Very, and she still is now. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. She's just coming into her personality and becoming more of a person and more independent.
They have to find those boundaries.
Yes, and Lucas is still trying to find those boundaries, and he's still not quite independent. I mean, he's 2, so I don't expect him to be independent. But I think his problem for him is he understands a lot more than he can get across and tell you what he wants. So then he gets frustrated with himself, and then obviously in turn having a tantrum and meltdown from not being able to get across what he wants. Sometimes it's because he wants something and then you said no.
Right, of course.
So usually that's
or it's like the wrong cup, or it's like
always, or not the right plate, or if he's starting to get more independent, where if I try to open something, he will have a full-blown meltdown because he wanted to open
I want to do it. I want to do it.
Yes.
Yeah, we have that right now with Banner as well. My favorite thing with our 2-year-old is you go away, you go away, you go away, you don't talk to me, you don't talk to me. He'll look at our 1-year-old, he's not even 1, and he'll be like, Mama, Crew's looking at like, he's a baby. Like, he's not trying to like provoke you, I promise. Crew, you go away. And I'm like, he's in his high chair. Where's he going to go? You know, but it's so funny. I mean, if you really are not in a hurry or anything like I was this morning, it's pretty funny and it's pretty cute, but it's hard.
But also frustrating.
Yeah. More stressful working on logistics for the Air Force or momming?
Momming. But although I do feel like sometimes I'm dealing with children on the Air Force side, just adult children.
For sure. I mean, we're all children in certain scenarios.
Yes.
We can all revert back to our 2-year-old tantrum phase.
But momming for sure. I mean, you're raising a small human being to an adult stage, and you're starting from scratch. Versus like being in the military, they're already adults. Right. No one's starting at 12 or whatever. They're all 18 or older. Most of us are older than that. So it's just they kind of already know how to be independent versus raising someone who's not, and you're raising them to be independent. Yes. So there's a slight difference, but stressful because I also worry more about them. But of course I want them to be happy and safe. And
of course, it's different.
Yes, it's very different.
It's different. Okay, logistics. What does that mean? What do you do?
So
in terms that all of us will be able to understand.
Right, exactly. So for me, I am over what we call flights. So I'm in a squadron, logistics readiness squadron. It falls under a group structure, so the mission support group. Basically, you have your hierarchies is what it comes down to. And within the squadron, we have a few different job types. We call them AFSCs, Air Force Specialty Codes. And then they're grouped by an actual overarching name, so like material management, or supply is the other name for it. I actually manage supply troops, and one of our other flights or job type is fuels, so I'm over fuels management. And I just basically manage those two flights in terms of making sure things are being done when they need to be done, depending on the job type. I don't need to know the actual job, how they do their job. I need a rough idea, but not to the extent of like every detail. Mm-hmm. That is up to what we call the superintendent, who is in charge of the overall flight within the flight. So I'm over it as a whole. Like if you look at it from if you were drawing out like a chart, I'm here in a circle at the very top, and then you'd have underneath me the superintendent, mm-hmm. and then underneath them it branches out. Okay. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So they'll really, because they know the job, so they're going to really make sure things are done the way they're supposed to be, because they know how it's supposed to be done. Okay. I'll do also like the paperwork in terms of whether it's positive or negative. So it could be a decoration, or it could be someone's being reprimanded. Okay. I typically do a lot of the paperwork because it has to be signed by me. I also can re-enlist individuals. So I can give them the oath if they want to stay in the military when their enlistment is getting ready to end. Because so on the enlisted side, that's the other difference. On the enlisted side, there are contracts, actual contracts that they sign, 6, 8, 4 years, 2 years. It just depends. On the officer side, I signed up and I don't really have a contract. Oh, okay. I can just relinquish my commission at any point. So if I didn't want to be in today and I just said I want to be done, I can just relinquish it and be done. Like a regular job. Mm-hmm. And just quit. However, if I decide I want to go back into the Air Force, I could not get my commission back. I'd have to come back as an enlisted. So again, once you relinquish your commission, it's game over. Okay. So I'm not doing that. This is not an announcement? No, not at all. Not at all. But that's one of the other differences. There's no actual contract for officers. We don't have an end time frame. I mean, we do in the sense of like, you can't stay in past like 60. Okay. But that's really that's where it ends. Otherwise, there's no actual set deadline of 2, 4, 6 years. You have to re-enlist or redo an oath every time. Now we have the option to do our oath every time we promote, but it's not required either. It sounds like you really either doing what you're doing has formed like a very organized person out of you, or were you this way before? Because I can like tell that you, first of all, that you enjoy what you do. But then also that it sounds like what you do suits your personality so well. So was your personality there and is this fit it, or did it build? No, I would say my personality was there. My dad was in the Air Force and he retired just after I commissioned basically. So I kind of grew up around it. Okay. I'm not 100% a military brat, as they say. He went reserves, which is what I'm into. I'm not actually active duty. I'm what they call a reservist.
Okay.
I'm currently on actual active duty orders for the time being, which makes me full time. But when I'm not on orders, I'm 1 weekend a month.
Okay.
And then 2 weeks out of the year. Give or take a few extra days there. Being as an officer, I definitely work more than the 1 weekend a month.
Right.
So reserves is very deceiving. There is a lot more work than what is advertised, if you will. And not in a bad way, but it's just not expected until you actually get in and realize, oh, this is a lot more work than I had anticipated.
So was your dad like, as a child, did you have like a lot of more structure than other kids probably?
Absolutely. I would, yeah, absolutely. But not in a bad way. I had a good upbringing. I was probably, for me, I've always been more conservative, even as a kid, always very conservative and cautious. I guess you could say I've always known what I was going after, and I didn't want to jeopardize that.
I see.
So I had an idea of what I wanted to do when I grew up. Am I doing that? No. But I knew that I couldn't do even silly things like TPing a house. I was like, if I got caught by the police, like that's going to ruin my chances of doing something.
Oh,
like I was that concerned.
Okay.
This is at the age of like 10. I kid you not. I made these decisions at the age of 10. Like I can't do this and I can't do that because that's going to ruin my chances when I'm like 20. Like
I mean, I think a certain amount of that is so good though, because not to the extent that you are cautious, for sure. I mean, the fact that I guess I started a business and all that stuff shows that I'm not a super cautious person, because it's just like, oh yeah, whatever, let's do it. But I was that way with some stuff growing up. But it was more, I got mine more from my 3 older brothers were just troublemakers, like big time. They were like constantly like drinking, like partying, all this stuff. And I didn't do all of that stuff just because I didn't want to be like them. So I was like, well, I'm not going to do that because they do that and they're just a disaster. And so they were like good role models in a way that they were showing me everything not to do. Right. But it's kind of like a similar thing. So I get that.
I didn't have any siblings. I'm an only child.
Okay.
So that's something that...
Oh.
That some people go, either they're surprised by it or some people go, this makes sense. That
I feel like it makes sense.
So I am an only child. I do have a friend that I've known for the past 30 years. We met when we were 3 and we still talk. Like,
oh, that's awesome.
We were basically raised together.
That's cool.
So, I mean, she's essentially my sister and I talk to her pretty much every day.
Wow.
So I had somebody, but not in the same sense as someone who lived in the house and that was raised under the same roof.
I just think you can, because I remember, and you probably remember this too, like when you have your first kid, the amount of time and attention and energy and structure you can have goes out the window when there's a new one. And then for us, like the third one, it's like, I mean, now he's just like, this morning when I was making breakfast, he wanted me to hold him, but I just got all the spices out of the spice cabinet and put them on the floor, and those were his toys. But with the first one, I never would have done that.
No, absolutely not. I definitely see a complete difference between Avery and Lucas, the way we're raising them, not because we don't want to do the same things that we did.
It's just, you have to.
Right, exactly. You don't have a choice. And it's more of a, you learn from it too. It's like, oh, well, really that's not going to hurt him. It wouldn't have hurt Avery, but we still were too scared that we were going to damage.
You were trying to follow all the like rules of parenting that you think that there are that really aren't.
Right. You just put them in place in your head, and then you just stick to them for whatever reason.
Just keep them alive and pay attention to their feelings, and you know. Yeah.
With Lucas, everything went out the door, and so it is less stressful when you do that, when you don't put so many stringent rules.
But you could see if you had an only child. I could see how if I had an only child, it would be much more structured and everything. So that makes sense that you're an only child, I think.
Yes.
You joined street parking in July of 2018. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about, I want to wait a little bit about your experience with gymnastics and then where you're at now, because I think that is a cool story. But before street parking as an adult, what were you doing fitness-wise?
So we actually had gone to a CrossFit gym when we were living in Maryland, and it was actually in Virginia that we really liked.
What does your husband do?
Logistics, actually.
Oh, is that how you guys met?
No, it's not. We actually
Is he in the military?
He is in the military.
Okay.
He joined out way after the fact. We met before he even joined. I was already in.
Okay.
So he ended up joining later in life after we've been married. But he's always been in logistics, civilian side, and even now in the military.
Okay.
It was coincidence in terms of us both having the
same.
I would
love to just like hear your conversations at home.
He's the one I ask questions to, because he's been doing it pretty much his entire life. He's very good with logistics, and I'll ask him for advice even on the military side, because he just has a better idea on how things should work.
Okay.
I'm still learning it because it's just not my, I haven't been around it that long. I've only been in logistics for almost 4 years now.
Okay.
Versus doing 9.5 years on the command post side.
Okay.
So it's still newer to me than it is to him. He's been doing it for the past 13, 14 years or whatever. So there is a difference, and he can hold the higher ground on that one.
Okay, you'll give that one to him. Okay, so before you guys were in Maryland and you went to a CrossFit gym.
We really it was called Solidarity, and it was a very home feeling like. It was a very small CrossFit gym. I think they've expanded a little bit. But it just felt very homey, but we couldn't stick around because we ended up moving further away, so we didn't end up staying at Solidarity. And so we checked out other boxes, and we couldn't find that same feeling, which led us down to the road of buying our own equipment, too, because we also were thinking about how much it costs per person per month, which was
the logistics side of you came out.
Yeah.
The wait a minute.
It was just a lot of money to be not necessarily throwing out the window, but it was just too much that we wanted to spend on ourselves. But we thought about buying the equipment is going to pay for itself in the end. It's going to have the dividends in it because now we can just work out from home, and we don't have to pay the $200+.
And when was this that you started buying equipment? How long ago? Or what year do you think, roughly?
Roughly about when we got married. And that was in 2013.
Okay.
So we bought equipment little at a time.
What were your first couple purchases? Because I think people wonder that a lot.
We got dumbbells,
Nice.
and I think we did get the rack.
Okay.
We did get a rack.
It has like a pull-up thing on it and everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then over time, I've lost track like when we bought stuff, but over time we bought a GHD. And it would, like I said, be a once a year thing that we'd get some new equipment.
We didn't get Christmas or something.
Exactly. And then we got a rower. And then sometimes there's deals going on, like where if you buy one piece of equipment, they're going to give you a couple extras, like just for free, because they're trying to get rid of their
extra inventory. Yeah.
Exactly. So we have a Concept 2 bike, and
nice.
we got the Air Runner in November of
you guys are set up. You're stocked now.
Oh yeah, we're stocked. We got everything.
And your husband still works out in the garage as well?
We actually have everything in the basement.
Okay, it's in your basement.
Yeah, we moved it all to the basement.
You're not very tall. How is that for your husband with like overhead stuff?
For certain stuff, we'll do it out in the garage.
Yeah, because we see that a lot with our members. They're like, well, most everything I can do in my basement unless I got to do push press or something overhead.
For me, I have no problems. But right. I'm 5 foot nothing. But for him, yeah, he can't do certain movements without possibly hitting the ceiling.
Okay.
The rafters. So he'll skip it, or we'll move it to the garage, save it for something like when it's a little warmer. We'll pull the cars out, of course.
Right.
Hence street parking.
Exactly. See, you get it.
Yes, I do. And we also have a pull-up bar in the garage because the ceilings are super high.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So we can do wall balls in the garage and
Great.
have that 10-foot target if we need it. That way we can do, if I want to, muscle-ups down there. Because I won't do it in our basement, even though if I get in between the rafters, I'm fine, but I don't feel comfortable with that. I could just see myself just knocking myself if I'm too tired or whatever.
Yeah.
Not that I do muscle-ups all that often. Probably do more of a kipping thing from doing gymnastics, so that's just, it makes it a little easier. But he'll take everything out to the garage if it's something that requires him to go overhead completely.
Okay.
If it's like push presses, it's not so bad, but it's like when you do an extra jump or whatever you have.
Can he box jump in your garage and stand up on the box?
In the garage, yes.
Or I mean,
in the basement, it would have to be probably the 18-inch or something.
Okay.
He can't do. I don't think he can do the 30 without. It'd have to be in between the rafters, but you don't want a chance not getting squared up and in between.
Yes.
Especially when you're tired. You're not paying attention. There's just no way.
Yeah.
I know I start to get that kind of like that foggy feeling, and you're just like, what number am I at?
I know.
He'll do that kind of stuff out in the garage.
Okay, so you started buying the equipment in 2013. Did you immediately basically just only work out at home from then on?
Pretty much.
What other programs were you following? Because I know when we asked you, what made you choose street parking? Because we sent out these questions before you guys came, and you mentioned that you just didn't like doing your own programming. So what, between 2013 when you started doing that and 2018 when you joined street parking, take us through the journey of how you figured out what workouts and stuff to do.
We were doing actually beach body is what we were doing. So we were doing P90X. A lot of P90X is what we ended up doing, or even is it Insanity? Is that the other one? I think that was the other one. Insanity was the other one that we would do. So that's what I mostly used. I've never enjoyed trying to figure out what muscle groups I needed to do. Pull-ups, push-ups, whatever have you, legs. Like, should this been a leg day or should I be mixing? Like, I just could never figure it out for my body. So choosing something that was already programmed, like Beachbody, but I started to slowly get bored of Beachbody. And my husband was actually the ones who discovered street parking. He's the one who found you guys on YouTube.
And here you are without him. He's not even here.
I'm the one who's, I guess you could say, not in a bad way, but more obsessed. Like, I do love street parking, and I'm always telling people, even at the office, at the base, they'll see my key on my bag or whatever, and even my cell phone on the back of it has a sticker on it, and they'll be like, "Well, what's the key?" And I'll be like, "Oh, it's street parking." They're like, "What is street parking?" And I may have converted someone.
Oh,
may have converted somebody at the office.
That's awesome.
And she's still loving fitness, but so he's the one who pointed it out and thought.
And he just found it like social media, or how did he hear about it?
He was into CrossFit. Sometime after we got married. He was doing that at
home.
Yes, and he was just, I don't know. I think he was just on YouTube searching for something, and something of yours came across. Street parking came across his feed, and he decided to look into it, and then showed it to me. And he goes, "I think this would be something that you would enjoy doing," and even for him, because that's why he wanted to do it too. And so we pulled you guys up and looked up online. We're like, "Oh, this is affordable. This is better than paying for a box," because we still wanted the CrossFit style type workouts. We just, Beachbody doesn't quite do that.
Right.
It's not quite that same style. P90X was a great workout, and it did get me fit. Don't get me wrong, but it just, doing that over and over again, it got boring. Yeah, is what it did. So we signed up as soon as he found it, and I'm pretty sure it was like the 5th of July. It was like right after the 4th of July. I don't know why he was on YouTube, but he was. Yeah. So it just worked out. I mean, it benefited me. I mean, here I am, how many years later at this point?
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so then you found street parking. How many workouts do you have? Are you a logger?
Yes, I am a logger. I have like 800 plus at this point.
Dang. Drew, who I interviewed before you, he was at 888.
I want to say I'm like at 880 something.
Dang. Is it a race?
No, it's funny.
I think it should be a race now.
Well, what's funny is another street parker, Jamie, she pointed out when she saw that we were here, she goes, "Do I see Drew in the picture too?" We were together at Vegas. We were on the same team. We were Team Cyan. We were in Vegas.
Yes.
So Drew and I were on the same team.
And neither of you remembered?
We didn't remember that we were on the same team. I remember meeting him, but I couldn't figure out why.
I mean, that was a dark, long workout. Yeah. At the Vegas meetup.
Because he didn't remember it either, and I was like, because he didn't remember meeting me, but I remember meeting him, and I was like, I don't know why, like what caused it. I was like, I remember it was Vegas. That was as far as I could go, but I couldn't remember. But it was because we were on the same team. He found the picture too, by the way.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
And we're next to each other in the picture.
That's so crazy. So if you're listening to this and you have no idea what we're talking about with this Vegas thing, or if we have some people listen that aren't street parking members, in 2021, right?
Yes.
We did a meetup in Vegas for our 5-year anniversary, and people were put on teams for this like just ridiculous sandbag workout that was so long. So I mean, you guys probably just blacked out a little bit and forgot.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, because I don't even remember all the movements that we did. It was a lot. It was a blast. Like, we had so much fun. I definitely got burned, and I ended up having a key burned into my shoulder. Oh
yeah, we were all sunburned.
Yes.
I think for someone who has your personality, it makes total sense that, because you're very analytical and you seem like the type of person where you recognize there's like a right way and a wrong way. And so people that are like that, and a lot of people are like that, will be paralysis by analysis of like, you're capable of creating workouts, but you would want to analyze it and make it so perfect that like you're just like, this is too much. Where there is that element to it, but then there's like the artistic side too, where for me, programming is like a huge artistic outlet for me, because I have like an artistic background. I see it almost as like, I don't know, a painting or composing music or something like that, where you have to have the correct elements, but there's also like artistry to it. So I love it so much.
Which is why I'm glad I found someone who loves it, because I don't.
I'm obsessed with it. It's my favorite thing. Like, even after all these years, I never get sick of it. But a lot of people have that same issue where they don't start anything because they they are looking for the right thing, the perfect thing, the like, you know, and so how has that, because you mentioned like, I just don't want to make my own workouts, but then I've got bored with this. So what, because you've been a member for 5 years almost now, how has that filled both of the buckets? Like, I'm not bored, but I also see that this is, you know, with my analytical mind, it's working for me and I enjoy it, and I have no worries as far as that goes.
Definitely not bored. Well, even before you've expanded the number of options you have, you still had a lot of options with even just what you had before with the daily workouts. You've had a little bit of the Ollie and everything. Like, you guys had a little bit of it even when you first opened this up to everybody. So I just never got bored in terms of like, I had options to trade out things, and you made it where I could, even before even the mottos came out, where I could choose what would work best for me and not worry about exactly what was listed on the directions, what was, as we would call it, the prescribed. Like, I could change what I needed to change to fit what how I was feeling that day, how my body was feeling that day. And it was already made aware, because you'd always give some kind of modification list on there. Now it's more easy because you literally have the button for modifications for each movement. But I would always go look at the modifications back when we had to go find them, just so that I could adjust what I needed to based on how the day was going. And that's what also didn't make it boring, is I could change what I needed to change. Not a lot of programming gave the information where you could figure out what you could change. Okay. I didn't know all the different movements until you guys provided them. I would have never thought about for a pull-up to do bent over rows. Like, that just would have never clicked for me unless someone told me. And so Beachbody programs don't typically do that. It's like, here's the workout and do the workout. There's no, if you can't do this type of thing. They do a little bit of it, but not enough. There's not enough change to it. And it's not a knock on Beachbody for anybody who does it. It's a great program. I did P90X several times, and it does work. It's just, I just needed something that it wasn't 90 days and then it was over.
Yeah, like, what are you going to do, the same 90 days over and over for the rest of your life?
Right, and that's what I didn't want, which is where street parking came into play, because it's not. It changes all the time. Yeah. And I can choose to do running, or I can choose to do the daily WOD. Or
how often do you do the daily workout versus, well, first of all, do you ever do multiple workouts in the same day, whether it's in the same session or separate? And then the second question is, are you mostly a daily workout person, or how often do you dive into the extra programs, and which ones are your faves?
So I typically do the daily WODs, and I'm a one-a-dayer. I don't do more than one pretty much ever. Very rarely do I ever do 2 a day. It's just not on my schedule. Time-wise, I don't have the time to do that. And sometimes I just don't have the feeling, like, I just don't have the energy to do more than one.
Right, you're busy.
One is more than enough.
With your young children and your job, you're busy.
Yeah. One is enough. But right now, I bounce between I just finished the push-up stamina.
Oh yeah, you were talking about that yesterday.
The second one, because you have 2 push-up stamina. So I did the more in-depth, because I've been able to do push-ups several push-ups in a row. I mean, for the Air Force, I have to max it out 50 push-ups in a minute.
Dang.
Which I have every time have accomplished.
Wow, that's awesome.
I didn't have a problem with that part of it, but usually that's adrenaline kicking in too when you have a test. So normally it's pretty rough. Like, when you just try to test yourself without the adrenaline and all that, it gets rough to get to 50 in a minute. So I decided to do the push-up stamina, the second one, so that I could build that up, because I actually have a test coming up in a couple weeks.
Okay.
So I wanted to get my biceps ready for that. I typically train 2 months in advance for a PT test, because I do need to focus on those particular movements, which is running, sit-ups, and push-ups.
I think I heard somebody ask you yesterday if you've ever done, because we have some, is ACFT, is that test, or is there's 2 tests now?
Yeah, so the ones that are listed in there, they don't quite fit the Air Forces.
They changed the Air Forces is different. Ours is more Army, huh?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with it. I have utilized it for the Air Force, and it does help. There's no reason not to use it if you need something to get you ready for the Air Force PT test. They've expanded the Air Force PT test now.
They keep changing them.
So we have the 1.5 mile run as an option, and then we have the what is it called? You have to run back and forth, and it's to a beep.
Like a shuttle? Like
yes,
a beep
the shuttle
test.
run. Thank you. That's what it is. It's called the shuttle run, and the beep gets faster and faster.
Okay.
And you have to do so many. I'm going to stick with the 1.5 miles only because I have currently I'm going under physical therapy for a runner's knee.
Okay.
So the stopping and going is not ideal.
Quick change of direction, yeah.
The physical therapist is like, let's not do that one.
Okay.
So I'm doing the normal 1.5 mile run. The push-ups, that we can do the hand release, but you have to push down and throw your arms out sideways.
Not up.
No.
Yeah.
And then back down and then push up. It's a real shoulder burner.
Yeah.
Not a bad one to add into street park, I'm not gonna lie. It definitely it'll get your shoulders real quick. So I have 2 minutes to do 31, I think.
Okay.
And it doesn't sound like a lot in 2 minutes.
But that little motion
when you
adds
do that
so much.
motion,
Yes.
Yes,
That's
your
so true.
shoulders become on fire.
And there's no stretch reflex too. So like in a normal push-up, there's a little bit of like you can almost bounce your chest, but also there's like a little bit of stretch reflex from your muscles. But when you come to a complete stop like that, the stretch is gone now. And so you're starting from like a dead stop every single time.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's a real shoulder burner. And that is actually the one I'm going to do. I had planned on doing that before I ended up getting deployed, but they ended up pushing my PT test anyways because they were trying to get because of COVID, it caused some serious problems with our physical fitness that they had to pause it for a very long time. So anybody
like people weren't able to do the
test, well, because of the masks, you can't. There's no way you're going to do a fit
mile
test
and a half run with your mask on.
There's just no way. You're asking for people to like fall out and pass out is what you're asking for. So they paused it for a while. So what they were trying to do is get those who hadn't tested, who were 6 months or any of our failures. So they were trying to get those people up first. And so anybody who had above a 90, they kept pushing to the right. When I say push to the right, as in they would push that person's test out for either at least 6 months or a year.
They weren't worried about those people.
Correct. And they probably, my guess is they looked at our track record overall and decided, okay, well, this person has pretty much always gotten 90s. We can keep pushing them to the right and just get all these other people in first. So I am now taking a test 4 years later.
Wow.
But I had damaged my nerve on my left hand and the pinky doing actually one of the street parking workouts with the dumbbells. I caught it just right. I caught it just right. No, it was on a dumbbell. I just caught it just right in my hand, and it just shot through my elbow. I think it was actually during Renegade Rows for whatever reason.
Dang.
It was a high volume of it, and I just caught it just right. And so it took several months for it to come back. Like, I don't have problems now, but it took several months. I had to see a chiropractor and just getting all kinds of stim done to basically heal the nerve, because the nerve, there's no blood flow, so it takes longer for it to heal itself if it's going to heal. So now it is, but so I decided to do the hand release because I was having so much problem with the nerve that I didn't want to keep it on the ground to keep pushing up. I was like, this is nice to like get the release.
Okay, nice.
And then I found that I actually enjoyed that particular movement itself. So I was like, well, this is going to be, I'd rather do 31 in 2 minutes versus doing 50 push-ups in a minute. Like, so that just sounds better to me.
Okay, so you've been doing the push-up program. What are the other extra programs that you throw in? Because I know there's a few more that you've been...
The 52-week endurance, I wanted to get myself prepped for the 1.5 mile run.
How far into it are you?
I do number 33 this Friday.
Okay, so you're past halfway.
Yes. Yes.
And you said you have a love strong dislike, not hate, but a love strong dislike relationship. Yes. I think everybody that's done that program even a little bit feels the same way.
Yeah.
It's like an abusive relationship.
Yes, yes it is.
Because you see people that are like on their second time through it, and it's just like, why am I still doing this to myself? I mean, I feel like that. I've been doing the rowing program, which is, and somebody brought this up to me. They were like, why is there not a badge for this? Because it's 42 workouts once you get through the whole rowing program. And I was like, why isn't there a badge for this? But it's the same thing. Like, every time I'm in it, I'm just like, what? Why am I doing this program right now?
I feel that every time I get on the air runner, because we also have an air runner. Like I said, we got it in November of 2020 just because of the weather and everything. But because Ohio gets cold in the winter. I have no desire to run outside in the cold. But every time I get on there and I look at the let's put it this way. If I actually calculated...
Those workouts are long.
If I actually calculated how far I'm running, I'm pretty sure the answer would be, nope, not today. Not happening. Because
you have to take it like one little section at a time. Like, okay, what do I do next?
Yes,
what do I do next?
I have it on a little dry erase board that sits against the bike because the air runner is right next to it, and I lean it up there. I just look over, and that's what I cannot calculate the overall amount, because if I do that, I'm going to get in my head, And I'm going to be like, this is going to be absolutely miserable knowing that. And I'd want to either slow it down or I wouldn't give it the intensity that it deserves type of thing. And I want to get everything out of it that I can. So I just don't calculate on purpose. I don't want to know. It says 7 rounds of this. Okay, cool. I'm just going to make sure I just hit those
one
marks.
thing at a time, follow the directions.
And I truly, if you don't read the coach's notes, don't skip that. Make sure you read the coach's notes.
I would say that's true for all the workouts.
Yes.
Unless you've been, I mean,
if
you've been a member
for around or something.
Yeah, you've been a member for 5 years, so there's probably workouts you can get away with not reading all of it. But if you're new, watch the videos and read the coach's notes.
Yes.
It will save you many times.
If I never read the coach's notes, there would be a few of the workouts for the run, especially that I would have just keeled over type of thing. Some of those are, like you said, long. They're long.
It was funny. We got a question on Facebook a while ago that was like, why are all the endurance workouts so long? And I was like, well, in order to train or to gain endurance, you have to endure. Like,
it makes sense. I mean, it don't get me wrong, that sucks for running that long. But I will say that I have noticed an improvement. Good. Even with my daily WODs, my endurance strength is so much better than it was before I started the 52-week endurance.
Yes.
Like, way better.
I think a lot of times people think that the only reason to do those workouts is if you're training for something like a 5K or whatever, but that's not at all. It transfers to all the other workouts too. Like all of a sudden you'll notice you're not as fatigued as early on wall balls, or you're not as fatigued as early on burpees, just because your breathing is more under control. And so, I mean, there's benefit even if you don't have any desire to like go out and participate in run events, or you don't have to have a 1.5 mile time test. It'll transfer to other stuff.
I'm going to have to test myself before I have my test to see where I'm at roughly, but I'm not as worried about it.
Especially if you go from the runner to the road, you're going to feel super fast on the road because the runner's tough.
It is. It really is. But that's also kind of why I like it, is that it's going to make that 1.5 mile run feel a lot easier than it used to.
Yeah, for sure.
And not that not that my time was ever bad per se, but my goal has always been to max out that stupid run.
What's the time that you have to max it out? What do you have to get?
I need to get an 11:07 to max it out.
What's your fastest one that you've done in a test?
In a test, was actually 11:07 back when I first joined the Air Force.
But you want to do it again?
But so when I joined the Air Force, the 11:07 was not so my age group. So it's based on age.
I see. Okay.
So it was like a 10 something. I want to say it was probably like a 10:20. I think I had to run that
1.5
miles in.
Yeah. So over 35 now because you're 36.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So
it's 11:07.
It's like 11:07. Might be 11:12, somewhere around there. So, but like I said, 11:07 was my fastest, and that was back when I was like 22, 23 when I joined.
Okay, this leads me perfectly into your gymnast, what you told me about. So you were in college, a D3 college gymnast. Mm-hmm. Where did you go to school?
Hamline University in St. Paul, Minnesota.
So obviously you grew up in gymnastics as well, because you don't just all of a sudden start doing gymnastics when you're older. It's one of those things you kind of have to start relatively young. Yes, if you're going to do well at it. But you said that you feel that you're fitter and stronger and more powerful now than you were when you were in college gymnastics.
Right, absolutely. I think it's because street parking has provided the tools for me to develop some of those strength areas that I was I was weak in and didn't realize it type of situation. And then just the nutrition itself. And I'm still honing in the nutrition. It's still a process. I'm still a work in progress.
I think that's true for everyone.
For the nutrition
all of it
side
is
of
a work in progress for everyone.
But it's a big work in progress. But I didn't have those tools or didn't really know them well enough when I was in college that I didn't apply anything like that. And I think if I had those tools while I was in college, I would have done definitely a lot better and would have felt more comfortable doing certain skills that I am now more comfortable doing.
It's really unfortunate because I'm sure at the high level, like D1 schools and stuff like that, it's better. But let's just even talk about like high school athletes and most college athletes. The coaches don't know. Mm-mm. Like the coaches don't know how to give guidance about nutrition and things like that. Like Julian grew up, wrestling, and the stuff they would do to cut weight and everything. He's like, we had no energy to actually compete. Like if we just would have known what we were doing more, and knew how to fuel ourselves for these matches and everything. But most of the coaches in at that level, like high school and, you know, most colleges, unless it's like a really well-funded school, they don't know. Mm-mm. So I think many athletes, if I would encourage, if you have kids or if for some reason you're listening to this and you are younger and you're involved in sports, don't rely on your coaches for that. Go get that knowledge for yourself. It's out there and it's so easily accessible now. There's a lot of bad information, but we try to keep it simple, and it's just, it's out there. So don't rely on your coaches, because or if you're a coach, which I know we have a lot of teachers and coaches and things that are members, the difference that you can make if you just learn some basic nutrition stuff and teach it to the kids that you're working with, it's awesome. It's a big difference.
It would have made some dividends if I had known the stuff that I know now.
Completely.
Then, even for when I was in high school for gymnastics and all that, like, I definitely probably would have been an even better gymnast because I was fairly natural to begin with. This would have been like the icing on the cake, right. Basically, is what it would have done.
Right.
So, but with that said, so I feel a lot stronger and more confident in doing some skills now, even at age 36, which I have. A friend convinced me to go to an adult gymnastics class.
That's awesome.
So I do that every Wednesday night.
What do you do in the adult, like what kind of the events or whatever do you do in the adult class?
We do all 4 of the events.
Wow.
We do all 4 of the events. I spend more time. I really like being on it's a tumble track, so it's a long trampoline, mm-hmm. essentially. I can still tumble on the regular floor, but just for like pain-wise, it's so much more comfortable to run on the tumble track and just tumble on it. And it's more fun because it gives you a little more oomph, basically. Yeah. It throws you in the air a little bit more. You still have to come down and land, but the mats are pretty squishy and soft.
Yeah.
But I'm able to do some of the simple skills that probably wouldn't have if I wasn't doing any of the street parking and like Absolutely. Keeping my strength. I'm stronger. More the power that it takes to do certain skills in gymnastics, even the simple ones, it's necessary so that you don't hurt yourself. And if I wasn't doing street parking, there's no way I'd be doing some of that stuff.
That's so fun. That's like one of the biggest benefits, I would say. So, you know, a lot of people associate fitness and like a healthy lifestyle, eating, all of it, with the only reason that you would do all that stuff is to look a certain way. And I feel like that's so unfortunate if people only look at it through that lens, because to me, one of the greatest benefits is it allows you to go do whatever you want to go do. Mm-hmm. So for you, it's allowed you to maintain doing something that you love, and gymnastics. For someone else, it might be like, hey, when you travel, you can go do these really cool, amazing hikes that if you weren't taking care of your fitness, you wouldn't be able to go do. Or, you know, I've talked to several other people, I'm sure, because you have kids, you feel the same way. It allows you to play with your kids and create those types of memories, or carry them around an amusement park or whatever. It's that quality of life is so much higher when someone can call you up and be like, hey, next week I'm going to go do this super cool, fun 5K. Do you want to come do it with me? And you can be like, yeah, sure, I'll come do that. And you don't have to train for it. Mm-hmm. Some of our staff here randomly, like with like 5 days notice, went and did a sprint triathlon last year. No training. I think several people had to go buy a bike or rent a bike, but it just allows you to live life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's been fun to be able to go to this Wednesday night adult class and not worry about hurting myself, because I have the strength and capability of doing it. Because some of it is like riding a bike, because I'd been doing gymnastics for so long. I probably haven't done anything in like 10 years, like in terms of like flipping around.
That's so
I mean,
crazy.
I've done like the simple stuff,
cool.
like handstands and cartwheels, like that kind of stuff, but nothing like a back tuck or even a round up back handspring, or a round up back handspring layout, which I'm doing on the tumble track, or even front handsprings. Anything that requires more power and more mm-hmm. movement in a safe environment, that is. I wouldn't go out and do this on like the grass or concrete. I mean,
that's how you end up on Instagram as like a fail video.
Yes. Yes. I mean, as a kid, would I have tumbled on the grass? Absolutely. Now, no, definitely not. But just in a safe environment, in a gym itself, it's been I guess you could say a wild ride. It's been fun, and I'm just doing it for fun. So there's also less stress. I'm not doing it as I did before, which was for competitions.
You have to get it, or it's like, yeah.
Right. I don't have to, and I can just do what I want to do too. I can focus. If I just want to spend the rest of my entire time doing adult gymnastics on floor, then that's what I'll do for that day. Like, it's only an hour long. We're not doing anything crazy. Where like back when I was in gymnastics competing, it's 2-3 hours
of
practice.
That training is
crazy. And that's a day. That's not
right.
even a week. That's a day.
Yeah.
So I think I was training like 18 plus hours a week.
Wow. I mean, it's known to be one of the most like rigorous sports as far as training goes, for sure.
Oh, I'm sure some of my ailments are most definitely came from gymnastics. Most definitely came from gymnastics. But I don't regret any of it. I love the sport, and obviously if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing it again as an adult once a week for just the heck of it, roughly.
That's so cool. That's just another, I mean, it makes sense to your personality because that's a very, like, you have to be very driven to be successful in that sport, so.
I just also want to show Avery that she can, and even Lucas when he gets a little older, and understanding that they can do anything they want to do if they set their mind to it. And I want them to understand that at an early age. So I don't care if Avery ends up doing gymnastics. I would love for her to, but I don't care if she does it. I want her to just find something that she loves and that she enjoys and can see where the joy comes from being involved in some kind of sport, whether it be soccer, which is something that she's interested in doing. She did it for a season, and we're waiting for the warmer weather. I don't feel like being in the rain.
Standing out there?
I just have no desire. But she does gymnastics recreationally right now, and she goes twice a week, and she seems to like it right now. But I don't know what she wants to do. I figured out gymnastics when I was like basically 10. So that was, she's almost 7, so she's I guess a few years ahead of me in terms of being in a sport, involved in a sport. So she may choose not to stick with it, but I just want her to see that mom chose something that she really enjoys even at this age.
Yeah.
That she can choose whatever she wants as she gets older and still continue doing it.
Well, I think that's really cool because when I was growing up, and this is like nothing against my parents or anything like that, because I think that they truly believed this as well, but like I had this belief that once you're an adult, you don't do that kind of thing anymore. So I competed in a like a fitness, almost like bodybuilding, but not that category competition where I don't even know if they have this category anymore, but we had to do a routine and there were required movements, and one of them was a back handspring, one of them was a back tuck. And I was like 21 at the time when I did it, and my parents were like, "You're too old to be doing that kind of stuff." At 21 years old, and they just truly, like, my mom was worried I was going to get hurt and all of this, and now I look at a 21-year-old, and that's that's so young. It's so crazy. And so I think it's great at 36 years old that you're showing like, hey, when you're an adult, you can, there's still play, you're still active, you can still go do anything you want to go do as long as you take care of yourself. And that was something that I didn't learn until I was older.
I was going to say, that's not something I learned recently. I mean, it's something that I learned recently. It wasn't early, like in my 20s or anything like that. I would say it was sometime in my 30s. I think part of it was due to street parking. Honestly, your guys' messaging is what led to some of this thought process too. And you're right. Like, why can't you do stuff even at this age, stuff that you enjoyed as a kid? Like, there's nothing wrong with it. They still do, like, volleyball, basketball for adults. They have but intramurals type sports. And I'm like, but where is that? And it's starting to become more known, even gymnastics. Like, if you ever heard of Chelsea Memel, look her up. She was in the Olympics. She's really into doing the adult gymnastics. I mean, she tried to go for the Olympics again. She's a phenomenal gymnast, phenomenal person in general. If you ever YouTube her, but she has a gym, and she has adults who are starting to compete in gymnastics. So
that's
there's
so cool.
Actual adults competing in gymnastics at a
lower
level, but nothing like that.
Like, I mean, the gymnasts in the Olympics are like 14 years old.
They're 16. Most of them are 16.
They have to be 16.
They have to. Well, so they can be 15, but they have to be turning 16 during the year of the
young.
Olympics.
But
they're very young.
You peak at a young age.
I was going to say, you peak at a very young age, unless you're a few in between, like Simone Biles, she's just phenomenal, period. Right. End of story. She was able to continue on, and even some of your greats like Nastia Lukin, she could also continue on. Like, some of them just have it, and they just stick with them. But majority of the time, we just peak at a younger age, and I think it's just part of it. It's the way our bodies are developed.
Absolutely.
The way we can hold weight and whatnot. The guys, they tend to peak a little bit later in life.
Yeah, because they need more muscle mass.
Yes.
Yeah.
Girls, it's a little bit easier when we're females for just a little bit more petite, if you will.
Right.
It just makes it easier, and so the peak happens when you're a little bit younger.
Okay. You mentioned it already, but I wanted to talk about your nutrition a little bit because I like your approach to it, actually. You said it's something that you struggle with. Currently, what you've found to be the most successful with, though, is the PALM method, which, if you're listening to this or watching this and you don't know what that is, it's basically a way to measure your food by using your hands. So like your protein serving is like your palm size and the thickness, and then you make like a fist, and it's, that can help you with your carbohydrate servings or whatever. It seems almost too simple, but it's really effective. And the cool thing is that the reason that we love it is you take your hands with you everywhere you go. So there's your measuring, tools. And typically your hands mimic the size of your body. So like if you're a small person, your hands are going to be smaller. If you're a bigger person, your hands are going to be bigger. So it almost like self-corrects for body size. In that way. So you've done other methods, like you've done the weighing and measuring and more accuracy, but right now the palm method is working for you. So talk a little bit about your experience with that, and then also the weighing and measuring, and why right now, at least in your life, you prefer that method.
The palm method is just, right now it's I can just say quicker and less overwhelming, and I can still get more of a balanced plate than I would otherwise. The measuring just takes longer because it's not something that's second nature to me. So I even just seeing it, like you used to talk about, like you can kind of eyeball it and that's roughly what you need. For me, I can't do that. I'm not there unless I use my palm method. But like the weighing just took too much time for me. And then I would try the analysis.
It had
paralysis.
to be exactly perfect. So if it says 100 grams, it cannot be 99. It cannot be 101. I'm taking like kernels of rice out of I know what you did.
That's exact. So that's what was happening. So I couldn't get out of my head.
And I think that maybe weighing and measuring isn't the best for someone who's like that, because one of the things that we are constantly aware of is, people will be like, well, I can't weigh and measure my food because I've had eating disorders in the past. Well, it's like you're not a person who should. The palm method is better for you because you can't be exact and you can't like take out a few grams here and there. It's looser a little bit. Still great and still accurate to see great results, but there are certain personality types or people who have histories that maybe the weighing and measuring isn't the most healthy mental thing for them to do with their food.
And that's what it came down to. It was more of a mental thing. So I was like, this is not the best idea for me.
I'm going down a dark path right now.
Right. And part of it too, like I said, it's a little bit quicker using the palm method, especially with my kids. And I don't want to, for them, there's no reason to measure food either. Like not even remotely close. So I don't want them to feel the need, if mom's measuring, why don't I measure my food either? So I don't want that on them, because they are like sponges. They watch very closely what I do because they're very much attached to me right now.
Right.
Both of them are.
I think we don't realize how much they pick up on. Like even if you were just measuring but they noticed that every single time you ate, you had to like pull out all this stuff. That could be internalized for them as like, oh, it's healthy, and depending on how you are about it. But it also could be like, oh, well, I should be doing that. Like you're saying, like if she's doing it, I should do it. And they want to mimic everything that we do.
Exactly.
So there's a fine line that when it comes to, I would say, fitness, nutrition. I have a memory of my mom, which she knows about this and she feels bad about it to this day, which is not a big deal. But I was probably like 12 or 13, and she weighed herself on the scale at home, and she was like, oh, I'm so fat. I'm 140 pounds. And to this day, I have a weirdness around 104. Like it's a weird milestone of weight for me because she said that. And it's those little things though, like she doesn't remember that. She wasn't like a big time, she never had like eating problems, or like she wasn't an over exerciser, nothing. Like she wasn't constantly trying to lose weight. I don't remember her being like that at all. It was just that one comment one time that sticks with you. So you do have to, I think, when you're a parent, be careful about how you're speaking about that kind of stuff and what you're showing them.
Which is why I switched. For me, again, it just made it easier, the palm method, because then Avery or Lucas aren't as, they're not noticing as much that I'm using, they're not seeing the whole weighing thing. It's just me kind of look like eyeballing type stuff. Yeah. And so that to them, it doesn't faze them. They're not noticing it to the point where like that's what they have to do as well.
You're not like taking rice,
right? Exactly,
pieces of rice off.
Because that was happening. It legitimately was happening. So that's when I was like, this is not going to work for me, because for me that also got overwhelming, and so that it took the fun out of it. And I think I ended up getting to the point where I just kind of fell off the train.
I've seen people do some crazy stuff to like hit their macros. Like they look at the thing at the end of the day and they're just like, oh, I'm missing 10 grams of fat. So they're like cutting a piece of butter and you're just like, what is happening right now? Like this is not.
And that's what I don't want to be doing.
No,
either,
it should fit into a normal lifestyle of being able to eat.
And this is starting to, it's working for me a lot better. And like I said, eat more veggies than I have before, and
Right.
I make a more conscious decision to eat vegetables. I do have to make sure that I cut everything up like when I get it. Otherwise, I'm lazy. I won't do it. I won't, and I have no desire to like have to cut it up right then and there. So on Sundays, I typically will chop up all the veggies and put them in the containers to have them ready so I can pull them out and go, because I don't enjoy cutting them in the moment.
I think that's a really good tip of like have it. I mean, that's one of the tips that we talk about all the time. Like have easy to grab stuff.
Yes.
There's the stuff you cook, and when that works out and you have the time for it, that's great. But easy to grab stuff is so important if you're going to.
And right now, easy to grab is what I need for consistency with having 2 small kids, even with their extracurricular activities, too. I work all day, I come home, and I have to take them to gymnastics or swim or whatever activity it happens to be.
I think one of the other things that you do well, which I've noticed with probably half of the members that we've had here so far, is that just is hard but makes it easier in the long run, is you work out super early in the morning.
Yes.
So you wake up at 4.
Yes, I get up at 4 in the morning so that I can
What's with this 4? I feel like everyone that's like these crazy morning people, it's the 4 a.m. for all of you guys. So, but again, like it prevents it from getting lost through the rest of the day. So tell us a little bit about your workout schedule.
So I will set the alarm for 4 a.m. I'll have my workout clothes downstairs on the main floor so that I can change down there so I'm not making as much noise upstairs where everyone else is sleeping. And I'll change right away because I'll have everything picked out. The night before, I'll also write down the workout I'm going to do on the dry erase board, and I'll have the equipment set out so that I can just get to it.
Like the less steps that have to happen at 4 a.m., the easier it is to get out of bed.
Correct. Because don't get me wrong, there are days when the alarm sets off, I'm like, I could just skip today, right?
Yeah.
And
it's like, well, I already wrote down the workout. And yeah.
Yes, and I do have this battle in my head as I think about going back to sleep. I'm like, but I already have the clothes downstairs. I already have the workout done on the board, so like I might as well just do it. The times that I don't have anything set out are the times that I typically, and it's very rare, I won't do the workout in the morning.
Crazy?
I'll be like, yep, I'm too tired and I need the sleep, and I didn't have it all set up, so the motivation just isn't there. But if I have it set up, I just have more motivation to do it. And I have found like if I don't get the workout in the morning, my day just feels off. It doesn't feel right. I don't feel the greatest. Not necessarily like I feel sick or anything. It's just
less awake.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't feel whole in a sense. Like the workouts make me feel better throughout the rest of the day, and I feel like I can, go forth and conquer. And I got lots to do at the end of the day. The only reason why I don't do it at the end of the day too is the kids have extracurricular activities. I have zero
after school
desire to work out at 8 or 9 o'clock at night.
Oof, that's rough. What time do you go to bed since you wake up at 4 a.m.?
Usually about 9, because I'm still trying to get my son to go to sleep. Sleep doesn't seem to be a thing for him.
He's not into it.
It's not a very good concept. My daughter is easy to get to bed, but my son not so much. Sometimes I end up having to sleep with him. Because he just won't go to sleep.
Yeah,
and
our 2.5-year-old's like that right now too.
Sometimes he just wants mom, and so we got a twin bed, so I at least had a better place to sleep.
In his room?
Yes, in his room.
I mean, Julian was asleep on Banner and Knox's floor last night. Like, it's crazy what parents will do. It's a good thing they're so cute, and you love them so much because, wow.
They put you through the ringer. Sleeping on the floor was something that I was not going to do. So that's why we ended up buying a twin bed so that I could sleep next to him. And so part of it, too, is he wants to feel your touch when he's in those moods. He does sleep on his own majority of the time.
But sometimes,
But he's been going through a phase lately where he needs someone to be with him. And I don't feel like getting up at 1 or 2 in the morning to sleep with him.
Yeah.
Yes, in the middle, because he'll get up and come into our room looking for me, and he won't go back to sleep unless I'm with him. So when he's like that to start with at bedtime, I know that it's going to happen in the middle of the night. So then I just prefer to stay because then we both get to sleep. And then I can get up at 4 in the morning to work out. But those are the mornings when he does come get me at like 2 in the morning where it's more rough. So if I don't have it set up, chances of me working out are pretty much zero.
Yeah. Is there a group of people, like last question, is there a group of people, maybe it's moms, maybe it's military, maybe it's working moms, maybe it's former gymnasts, whatever, that like you would want to encourage to find what you have found with consistency and fitness freedom and all of that stuff? Like, is there like a group of like a final send-off message for the podcast?
I wouldn't say that, like, I know that some people want to reach out to a certain group of people, but I would just say as an overall, for anybody who's just looking to do a new sport that they're interested in doing that they didn't do in high school or even college, and they can, like, for instance, if you've never done soccer, if you want to go play soccer, give it a try. And if you're doing street parking, trust me, if you're especially doing the endurance part of it, it's going to pay the dividends, and you're going to be able to do something that you've never done before. And if you have done it and you want to get back into it, go for it. There's no reason not to. Have fun with it. And there's no more stress like it used to be for competition-wise, for anything competitive. It doesn't matter what sport it is. You can just do it for fun. And having the strength from street parking itself, the fitness freedom of it, and even the consistency, you're going to be able to play and do whatever sports you want to do. If I wanted to go, not that I would, but if I wanted to go out and run and play soccer and find an intramural sport with adults who are doing soccer, I'm pretty sure I'd have to learn some of like the moves because I've never played soccer, but a lot of them are very open arms to that kind of stuff. We have it on the base. Sports like that, volleyball, they would take you in a heartbeat, and you'd be surprised on what you can actually do from developing the strength and endurance from street parking as a whole, that you could actually do sports that you either haven't done or haven't done in a while.
That's awesome. And I think it's like a big part of our message, I know, for 2023 with all of this in the wild stuff is your fitness, go use it for stuff that's fun. Go allow it to enhance your life in other areas, not just at home in your garage or in your basement. So that's awesome. All right, well, we can't wait. Your workout is rough, as you said, and so I can't wait for people to see it. I haven't done that one yet, so we'll see how it goes for me, but super excited to watch how it went for you and your fitness bully Julian. So we'll check it out in a few days. Thank you.
Thank you.